Hi, and welcome to Shropshire's Information Advice and Support Services training on Education, Health and Care Plans. My name is Becky Sheldon and I am an IASS officer for Shropshire Information Advice and Support Service. So in this training we will look at what is an EHCP, who needs one, the criteria, who can request one. We'll look at the process, including the timescales, how you can be involved, and a brief look at EHCP reviews. So an Education, Health and Care Plan, often referred to as an EHCP or an EHC plan, describes your child's special educational needs and disabilities and the help that they require to meet all of those needs. It should also include any health and care provision that might be required by that child or young person. So it's a legal document and it is written by the local authority. It is for children and young people who do have a very high level of support needs. They are for children and young people aged from 0 all the way up to 25 years old. So the plan can continue through all stages of education and onto further educational training if it's appropriate for that young person. The SEND Code of Practice says, the purpose of an EHCP is to make special educational provision to meet the special educational needs of the child or young person, to secure the best possible outcomes for them across education, health and social care, and as they get older, prepare them for adulthood. Who needs an EHCP? So most children and young people with special educational needs or disabilities will have help given to them in their educational setting through their SEN support. Now, SEN support is provided through the school's notional budget. In a nutshell, to explain the notional budget, schools should allocate some of their annual budget specifically to support children with SEND. The government recommends that they should spend up to £6,000 per child on additional support if it has been identified that that child needs it. Now, £6,000, that is quite a lot of money, and so, you know, as mentioned before, EHCPs are for a very small number of children and young people whose needs just cannot be met by the support that is usually available within their setting. You might be thinking, where do I start? So often if things aren't going well at school, parents can feel like an EHCP is the only way that their child can access the support that they need. This might not always be the case, and there is some key information that you can find out to help you sort of work out whether or not an EHCP is the right route for your child. So in the first instance, obviously it's really important that you talk to your child's setting and look at the current support in place for them. To do this, you can request any SEN support plans, you can request cost of provision maps, also any copies of any assessments that you might not already have, but just to get a really good idea of what your child is currently accessing. So important questions will be things like, is your child making any progress? Can school do more within their budget and their resources? If, you know, when you found out all this information, you or your school still feel that they have implemented, you know, a substantial amount of support, your child's still not making progress, they're still struggling, you or your school might at that point then consider making a request to the local authority for an education, health and care needs assessment, and this is the first step of the EHCP process. So let's have a little look at the factors that the local authority will consider when receiving a request for an EHCP. Hopefully this will help you to understand a little bit more about the criteria. The local authority will consider whether the setting has taken the right course of action to identify, to assess and to meet the child's SEN. To establish this, they'll want to see some evidence of the plan do review process. This information will be provided through the child or young person's SEN support plan, so their PCP, and also the cost of provision map, which will outline the costs that are associated with that support. They'll want to know what the child's current attainment is, and obviously what support the child is currently accessing. Are they making progress? Are they meeting their targets? Those sort of questions. The local authority will also need to take into consideration that if progress has been made, is that progress a result of a very high level of support, which is above and beyond what the setting is reasonably required to provide. Also, where appropriate, the LA will want to see some evidence of the child's physical, emotional and social development, also their health needs. Now, that information can come from various professionals. It doesn't have to be just education. It can come from from social care or any sort of health professionals. Obviously, they're all really important aspects with regards to a child being able to access their education. The local authority will also want to know what assessments have been carried out, if any, and again that can be from education or health or social care. They'll look at what were the recommendations of those assessments, have the recommendations been actioned, and can they be actioned within the school's capabilities, within their budget and resources. Your child's setting, so their school, college or nursery, can request an EHC needs assessment from the local authority, or you can make a parental request as well. So whoever makes the initial request, the local authority should still carry out exactly the same procedure, and they should still seek information from education, health and social care where appropriate to make an informed decision. So I think it's important to note that although it's obviously very helpful if you send in as much information as you can, it's not parents' responsibility to be gathering all that information. So send what you can, send what you have, but the local authorities still have a process to follow, and they will need to seek the information that they need to make that decision. There are some important documents for you and your child, and these documents are called the All About Me and All About My Family paperwork. This paperwork is your child's opportunity to put across their views, perhaps say what's working well, what's not working well, what they're struggling with, what their aspirations are for the future. And also, as parents, it's a time to express your thoughts, what's working well, what's not, and what you would like the future to look like for your child and for your family. So this paperwork is really important. It actually goes straight into section A of the plan, so straight in the beginning, and you get the opportunity to review it and update it as the years go on, and circumstances change and your child gets older. So this paperwork, along with some hints and tips and some guidance, can be found on Shropshire's local offer. So there is a legal time frame that the EHCP process needs to be carried out in. When you make a request for an EHC needs assessment, the local authority then have a maximum of 6 weeks to inform you of their decision. So that's if they agree that they will carry out a needs assessment or if they disagree. If they've not agreed, they must give you their reasons why in writing and inform you of your rights to appeal. If the local authority does agree to carry out an EHC needs assessment, they then have a further 10 weeks to do this. So during this assessment stage, they must consult with and gather any evidence from education, from health and from social care. By week 16 from the initial request, they must either issue a draft EHCP or they must inform you that they're not issuing one. So again, they need to give you reasons why in writing and also inform you of your rights to appeal that decision. So if you disagree, you've got your rights to appeal formally. If you are issued a draft EHCP, you then have 15 days to have a read through, look through it, and make any comments or representations about the content. So make sure that it's relevant to your child, that it's specific and all those other things, and you need to feed that back within 15 days. The local authority will then have 15 days to consult with the proposed or identified schools. They'll need to tell you if it's a mainstream school or if it's a specialist school. And a final EHCP must be issued by the 20th week following that initial request. So the final plan must name an educational placement or type of educational placement. So when the EHCP has been finalised, the educational setting must put in that provision in, must put the provision in place straight away. Your copy of the final EHC plan must include a letter from the local authority, again, which informs you of your rights to appeal if you're unhappy with it or if you disagree with any of the decisions that have been made. So how will you be involved? The SEND Code of Practice says local authorities must consult the child and the child's parents or the young person throughout the whole process of the assessment and production of an EHCP. And also that reviews must be undertaken in partnership with the child and their parent or the young person, and they must take into account all their views, wishes and feelings. So your views and your child's views are really important. The local authority, school or college should help you take part in the process and involve you in the decision making. So the local authority must review the EHCP at least once every 12 months, and this is through the annual review process. It must be done in partnership with you and your child or young person, and it must take into account your views, wishes and aspirations. So following an annual review, the local authority must inform you in writing of their decision whether to keep the plan as it is, so to maintain it, to amend it, which means make any changes, if circumstances have changed, if they've had new assessments, if new information has come to light, they will make changes to the EHCP, or if they cease to maintain it, which means that they are going to take away the EHCP, and they will need to provide reasons why they are doing that. They have to do this within 4 weeks of the review meeting. And again, you have your rights to appeal certain decisions that you don't agree with at this point through the formal appeals process. So when will an EHCP stop? For some young people with an EHCP, it will continue until they're 25 if they stay in education or training. However, the plan can stop at certain stages. For example, if the child's needs change and they no longer need the level of support set out in an EHCP, or if the young person tells their local authority that they no longer want their EHCP. Obviously it stops if the young person turns 25, it stops if they go to university, or it stops if they get paid employment, so that they get a job. So that concludes our training on EHCPs. If you have any further questions, that you feel haven't been answered throughout this training, please feel free to give us an email. Our email address is iass@cabshropshire.org.uk, and we will do our best to help you and answer those questions. Thank you.